In engineering physics under mechanics, in the last session, when we discussed about inertial and non-inertial frame of reference, if you recollect, I made a statement about something what is known as Coriolis force. Now, this concept of Coriolis force may not be included as a part of engineering physics under mechanics in many of the branches under various universities. So, even though it's not a part of that, it is always helpful to have an idea about what this force talks about. Now, if you have an idea about this force, you will find answers to some interesting questions like cyclones and erosion of banks of rivers, etc., based on this. So, therefore, though for most of you it may be out of syllabus, just I shall try to give you an idea about this. What this actually Coriolis force is all about. It is a fictitious force. It is one of the types of inertial forces like Coriolis force and centrifugal force. These two forces are come under the category called inertial forces. This force acts on a particle when the motion of the particle is relative to the rotating frame of reference. So the particle motion should be relative to the rotating frame of reference. So mathematically, it is proportional to the angular velocity of a rotating frame and the velocity of the particle relative to it. So, of course, if the particle is at rest, then obviously it is zero. That means either V or omega is zero. That means when the particle is at rest relative to the rotating frame or when the reference frame itself is a non-rotating frame. In that case, it will be zero. So, if you look at this is what it means. The direction of the Coriolis force is always perpendicular to the angular velocity as well as the velocity of the particle relative to it. That means angular velocity of the rotating frame or velocity of the particle relative to the rotating frame. So therefore, if you see its mathematical value, something like this. Coriolis force is represented by F of car. It is equal to mathematically, the derivative part is not there for you, minus 2m. In fact, the Coriolis force itself is not there. But still, for the point of understanding, I am explaining this concept. Its value is equal to minus Tm omega v sine theta n. Here, the negative sign indicates that the Coriolis force is in the direction opposite to that given by the right hand screw rule. So, this omega and v, these are the magnitudes of angular velocity of the rotating frame and velocity of the particle relative to it. Theta is the angle between omega and v. And unit vector n cap, it is a unit vector perpendicular to both omega and v. So, this is the mathematical way of representing Coriolis force. I am just recapping. Under inertial forces, there are two types of forces. One is called centrifugal force, another is called Coriolis force. It is defined as fictitious force which acts on a particle when it is in motion relative to rotating frame of reference. It is proportional to angular velocity omega of a rotating frame and to the velocity v of the particle relative to it. Of course, it will be obviously zero when either v or omega is zero. That is, when the particle is at rest relative to the rotating frame or when the reference frame is non-rotating one. So, the direction of the Coriolis force can always be perpendicular to omega or v. That is, angular velocity of the rotating and to the rotating frame and the velocity of the particle relative to the rotating frame. Here, the negative, mathematically, if you represent like this Coriolis force, F of car, the negative sign here, it indicates that Coriolis force is in the direction opposite to that given by the right hand screw rule. So, when you represent a Coriolis force mathematically like this, here omega and v are the magnitudes of angular velocity of a rotating frame and the velocity of the particle relative to it. Theta is the angle between omega and v, and n cap is the unit vector between these two. Unit vector n cap is the unit vector. Unit vector perpendicular to both omega and v. Now, based on the value of theta, you have two different situations. Suppose, of course, you can write like this. Omega and v are nothing but the magnitudes of these vectors. Okay. Now, case 1, if you put theta equal to 0, then obviously the entire thing, Coriolis force will become 0. It becomes 0 means this angular velocity and velocity of the particle relative to it both are parallel to each other. Case 2, if it is 90 degrees perpendicular, that is pi by 2, then sin theta will be 1. So therefore, you will have maximum Coriolis force. That is perpendicular to each other. So this is what is the basic thing you have to understand about Coriolis force. Let us see its effect. Due to its rotation, Earth will experience the Coriolis effect. That effect can be seen in wind energy, that is cyclone, as well as erosion of river banks, both in northern and southern hemispheres. That is clearly observed because of this Coriolis effect. So let us see the effect of Coriolis force on Earth rotation. Consider a point P on the surface of the Earth and the latitude of Earth be, let us say, lambda. So when the latitude of Earth is taken as lambda, it will have its co-latitude, which is nothing but phi. It is naturally will be 90 minus lambda. So latitude of the Earth is taken as lambda, co-latitude phi is taken as 90 minus lambda. Okay. So here the rectangular Cartesian coordinate system conveniently taken for understanding. So the rectangular Cartesian coordinate system with its origin rigidly fixed to the Earth at a point P. Then the axis of the system is taken vertically upwards. That is vertically upward at the point P. That means radially outwards from the center of the Earth. That means in the xy plane, it is horizontal plane containing the point P. X-axis will be pointing towards east and y-axis will be pointing towards north. That is very important point of consideration to be remembered here. So before proceeding further, I am just briefly recapping what I have explained now. In order to understand the effect of Coriolis force due to Earth rotation, we are considering a point P on the surface of the Earth with a latitude lambda. When the Earth latitude is taken as lambda, our co-latitude naturally becomes, co-latitude is represented by the alphabet phi. It will be 90 minus lambda. Now the rectangular coordinate system with its origin rigidly fixed to the Earth at P. Okay. Then z-axis of the system can be taken vertically upward at P. That means radially outwards from the center of the Earth. Then xy plane is horizontal plane containing the point P. X-axis will be pointing towards east and y-axis will be pointing towards north. In that situation, we know that the rotation of the Earth is from west to east. So because Earth is rotating from west to east, the positive direction of x-axis is taken towards east. Therefore, angular velocity vector, whatever that is there, it lies in the YZ plane in the direction parallel to the polar axis about which the Earth is rotating. Listen to this carefully. I have already explained that the point P, which you are considering, is in the rectangular Cartesian coordinate system with its origin rigidly fixed at the point P. That means z-axis of the system can be taken as vertically upwards at P, which means it is radially outwards from the center of the Earth. In that case, xy plane is horizontal plane containing that point, and naturally x-axis will be pointing towards the east and y-axis will be pointing towards the north. And we know that Earth is rotating from west to east. Therefore, if earth rotation is taken from west to east, naturally the positive direction of x-axis is taken towards the east. So therefore, angular velocity vector, where it will be? The angular velocity vector will be lying in the yz plane, which is in the direction parallel to the polar axis about which the earth is rotating. Okay. In that situation, the omega, that is nothing but the vector omega, therefore will not have any component in the east-west direction. That is, along x-axis it doesn't have any component. Therefore, when you are considering unit vectors I, j, k as unit vectors along x, y, z axis respectively, then omega can be represented as omega xi plus omega yj plus omega zk as the sum of this. Now in this here, omega x6, because it doesn't have any component along x-axis, omega x will be 0. Only omega y and omega z will be there. So along y direction you have cosine component, along z direction you have sine component. So along y, omega y will be omega cos lambda, and along z, omega z will be omega sine lambda. Omega x component is 0. Because the angular velocity vector lying in yz plane means in the direction parallel to a polar axis about which it rotates. That means vector omega will not have any component in the east-west direction. That is, along x-axis it doesn't have any component. Therefore, wx equal to 0. Only yz components will be there. In y direction it is a cosine component in the resolution of vectors. Along z direction it will have sine component. That's why wx equal to 0, wy equal to omega cos lambda, omega y equal to omega cos lambda, and omega z equal to omega sine lambda. Omega x equal to 0. This is the basis. In this situation, if you consider the particle being projected from the point P, as I said earlier, with a velocity v, then velocity components will be resolved like this. For the particle whose velocity of projection at P is given as v, then v will be components along Cartesian coordinates. So velocity v will be vxi plus vyj plus vzk. Now, with this velocity of the particle and on this plane with the angular velocity, what is the effect of Coriolis force acting on the particle moving with this velocity in the reference frame whose angular velocity is this one? Again I am telling. This is the angular velocity of the reference frame, yz plane we are considering, in which this particle is moving along with this velocity. So particle is moving with this velocity in the frame whose angular velocity is this. Carefully listen. This is the particle moving, P is the particle moving with this velocity in the reference frame rotating with this angular velocity. So when the particle with this velocity is moving in a reference frame whose angular velocity is given like this, then Coriolis force will be acting on that. So what is the effect of Coriolis force? Of course, this being divided along velocity being uniform, you can represent the velocity components as xi plus yj plus zk. So from this, what will be the Coriolis force acting on the particle moving with a velocity v in the rotating frame of angular velocity omega is given by this equation. F Coriolis is equal to minus 2m into cross product of omega into v. F Coriolis is nothing but minus 2m into cross product of vectors omega and v. What is this? This Coriolis force is nothing but the force acting on the particle moving with the velocity v in a rotating frame of angular velocity, this one. Understood or not? So therefore, if you calculate the value of this cross product, of course, m is the mass here. Already I told you That negative sign indicates that this force is in a direction opposite to that by a right hand screw rule. Now m is the mass of the particle, of course. Now using vector product, you are familiar with the det process. No? So omega cross v can be, vertical components will be zk and horizontal components you will have x and yj. Now you using this det value omega cross v between these coordinates, you can find the value of cross product of omega and v and substitute the values to get the expression, numerical value of Coriolis force. Clear? So why we are talking about this force? Because we are assuming that a rigid frame is attached with the earth surface. In that case, what is the effect of Coriolis force? This is if the particle moves with a velocity v in a rotating frame of angular velocity omega, then this expression gives the Coriolis force acting on the particle, acting perpendicular to the path and also opposite to the direction of the vector product of omega and v in a rotating frame. So when a body is moving parallel to the surface of the earth, both in northern and southern hemisphere, there is a possibility of diffraction. That is the basis for discussion on understanding the process of whirlwinds and cyclones. Again I am repeating. This expression gives the Coriolis force. That is, when a particle moves with a velocity of v in a rotating frame of angular velocity omega, this is the expression for Coriolis force, which is acting perpendicular to the path and opposite to the direction of the vector product of omega and v in a rotating frame. So when the body can moves in parallel to the earth's surface, in northern hemisphere it is deflected towards right of its path, and in southern hemisphere it is deflected towards left. So based on this, so therefore assuming that effect of Coriolis force in a frame rigidly attached to the earth surface, we can understand the effect of Coriolis force in whirlwinds, which is nothing but wind energy and cyclones, as well as erosion of banks of rivers based on this discussion. So when the body moves parallel to the earth's surface in northern hemisphere, it can be deflected towards the right of its path, and on the other hand, when it moves in the southern hemisphere, it can be deflected towards left of its path due to Coriolis force. And because of this reason, the freely falling body can be deviated from its true vertical path. So the deviation is always towards east of either of the hemispheres, whether it is southern hemisphere or northern hemisphere. Freely falling body can be deviated from its true vertical path. So how it will affect the whirlwinds or the wind energy and cyclones, let us see. Generally, the surface of the earth is covered by low pressure air region, which can be surrounded by high pressure air region. So naturally air currents will be set up from high pressure region to low pressure region. In case if air currents are moving towards the surface of the earth, they are generally deflected towards left side in the southern region and towards right in the northern region because of this Coriolis force as shown here. So if this is taken as earth rotation, so this is the low region, this is the high pressure region. So therefore across which you can take a pressure gradient. Now you can observe the isobar formation here, which is a line of equal pressures here. So this is sometimes you can observe in graphical representation from the meteorological department during cyclones. Now I am just referring once again. If you see this diagram, the surface of the earth is generally covered by low pressure air region that is surrounded by high pressure region. So therefore air currents are set up naturally from high pressure region to low pressure region. In such a situation, very interesting things will happen. If the air currents are moving towards surface of the earth, then they are deflected towards left side of the part in the southern region, southern hemisphere. And if the air currents, when they are coming onto the surface of the earth, they turn towards right in the northern hemisphere due to the Coriolis force. So that means the same Coriolis force will have two different effects. In the northern hemisphere, it gets deviated towards right side. In the southern hemisphere, it deviates into left side. Okay. That means the effect of Coriolis force in the case of whirlwinds can be understood as, because the surface of the earth is covered by low pressure air region that is surrounded by high pressure air region, and because of which air currents are set up from high pressure region to low pressure region, and whenever the air currents are moving towards the surface of the earth, they can be deflected towards left side in the southern region and towards right in the northern region due to this Coriolis force as shown here. Suppose in this case, if you consider the mass of air moving from west to east with a velocity v as shown here, effective angular velocity can be directed towards upwards. When you are considering the mass of air from moving from west to east with this velocity, an effective angular velocity can be directed towards upwards, out of the plane. Angular velocity will be out of the plane. That will be omega sine y. That will be omega sine phi. That means Coriolis acceleration can be computed. In fact, its acceleration, this Coriolis acceleration is a vector. So, when the mass of air is moving from west to east with a velocity v, effective angular velocity can be directed upwards out of the plane, which is omega sine phi. Thereby, Coriolis acceleration can be calculated as minus 2 omega cross v bar. Therefore, if you calculate the magnitude of this Coriolis acceleration, it comes to around 2 omega v sine phi. Okay. Now, with this background, let us consider southern hemisphere, for example. Look at the southern hemisphere. This is very interesting. When you consider southern hemisphere, the direction of wind will be opposite to the direction of angular velocity, because the direction of angular velocity of rotation of earth will be opposite to that in the northern hemisphere. Therefore, here whatever arrow marks we are representing, they indicate the direction of the winds. I am recapping again. When you consider southern hemisphere, the direction of wind always will be different in southern hemisphere when compared to northern hemisphere. Remember that. When you are looking at southern hemisphere, the direction of the wind will be in opposite direction, because the direction of angular velocity of rotation of earth will be opposite to that in the northern hemisphere. As shown in this diagram, the arrow mark we have represented here, they indicate the direction of the winds. That means the low pressure area in the southern hemisphere would give rise to winds having clockwise movement. That means the low pressure area in southern hemisphere give rise to winds moving in clockwise direction. So, a region of low pressure with roughly concentric isobars, technically referred to as cyclone. Again I am repeating. In southern hemisphere, the direction of the wind will be in opposite direction, because direction of angular velocity of the rotation of the earth will be opposite to that in the northern hemisphere. The arrow marks we have represented here, they are indicating the direction of the winds. That means the low pressure area in the southern hemisphere that would give rise to winds in a clockwise direction. So as a result, the region of low pressure with roughly concentric isobars, that is what is technically termed as something what is known as cyclone. This is how cyclonic wind forms. Understood? Now this is the effect of Coriolis force. If you look at the other effect of Coriolis force, it is generally observed in erosion that is taking place on the banks of rivers. Generally, we observe whenever some natural calamity takes place or cyclone effects or aftermath effects of cyclone, etc., we do hear that there is some degradation taking place, there is some erosion on the banks of the rivers, etc., taking place. Why that is taking place? It is because of the effect of Coriolis force. Let us see how it will affect the erosion of banks of rivers. So, whenever water is flowing in the rivers along the parallel direction to the meridian, that means both south and north, north to south or south to north, generally it experiences a Coriolis force. That is, whenever water is flowing in rivers along the parallel direction to the meridians, which means north to south or south to north, it generally experiences Coriolis force. Generally, this Coriolis force acts on the water towards right. So, therefore, right bank of the river can be subjected to a greater force than the left bank. Therefore, erosion of the right bank of the river can take place more in the northern hemisphere. Whereas in the southern hemisphere, erosion of banking takes place on the left side. That is what you have to understand. Erosion of bank river takes place both on right as well as left side of the banks of the rivers. So where do you get erosion of right bank of rivers? Where do you get erosion of left bank of rivers? Erosion of left bank of rivers takes place in southern hemisphere. Erosion of right bank of rivers takes place in the northern hemisphere. Why? Why? Because generally when water flows in the river, it flows along the parallel direction to the meridian. That means either north to south or south to north. In that case, generally it experiences Coriolis force. Okay. So if you take northern hemisphere, Coriolis force acts on the water towards the right. So therefore, right bank of the river can be subjected to greater Coriolis force than the left bank. Therefore, corrosion of right bank of river can take place in the northern hemisphere. Whereas in the southern hemisphere, same thing happens to the left side. Therefore, in the southern hemisphere, erosion of left bank of river takes place in the southern hemisphere than the right bank in the northern hemisphere. Therefore, whether it is left bank or right bank, due to Coriolis force, erosion takes place. In the case of northern hemisphere, it affects the right side. In the case of southern hemisphere, it affects the left side. This is how erosion of banks of rivers takes place. So, then this background, you need to understand what is meant by this inertial force called Coriolis force, taken as a fictitious force acting on a particle when the particle is in motion relative to the rotating frame. What is its mathematical expression and what are its values in different cases, and then what is the effect of this Coriolis force due to the rotation of the earth, what is its magnitude, how it is represented, and what is the effect of Coriolis force in a frame rigidly attached with the earth surface, and then what is its effect in the case of wind energy, which is called whirlwind energy, and how it leads to something what is we know as cyclonic effect, and then what is the effect of Coriolis force in the case of erosion of banks of rivers both in northern as well as southern hemispheres. So even though in some cases of the university syllabus it is out of the university syllabus, still the knowledge of Coriolis force in mechanics help us to understand the formation of cyclones as well as finding the root cause for erosion of banks of rivers. So that will be much more useful, especially from a competitive examination angle, irrespective of the university examinations. This knowledge helps you. In case if you find it difficult to understand this concept, you can just smile and ignore this. But if you are really interested in knowing the concept of cyclone formation and effect of erosion, you can follow this process.